Mike, I don't know if you got any influence in this regard, but what's a guy got to do to get a Kraken up in here?
A Kraken?
Yeah, I'm looking. I'm waiting for the Kraken.
Well, I mean, they say patience is a virtue, right?
Yeah. I'm not cracking on Sidney Powell. I got to tell you, my interpretation of that comment is that she was just saying she's going to open a can of whoop ass, and everybody seized on it. Now, I don't think there's an actual Kraken, but I'm not sure.
Well, I think there's a lot of things that are going on right now that as time goes on from now, next couple of weeks after this is some of the smoke and the fog clears from the election, not going to sit very well with a lot of people. And so in many instances related to that, I'm still in a wait and see approach because just like with COVID, when it first came out, I had a wait and see approach because I figured, well, we're not going anywhere. So why rush to judgment? And, because that's exactly what everybody seems to do now. Whenever somebody says something, people blow these things up and they make them viral when there's absolutely, what?
No evidence?
Well, why wouldn't you just wait for the evidence? We saw this. You and I saw this with it's the funniest thing, the evolution of these things. It's really funny. In a sad way, by the way. When the Birdman came out and said, oh, these Benghazi, the SEAL team at Benghazi and all this stuff. And we came out like the next day, you and I, and you asked me on the show, and it was on the YouTube portion. I got a little fired up. And I said to people, where is it? I don't play after all this time in this game and in other games related to DC and the politics. I don't play the information's coming game, right? Because so many times, I would say 99.9% of the time, just like the COVID
recovery rate.
COVID recovery rate, you flip that, and 99.9% of the time, it's hype. It's somebody who's buying time because they think something's coming, or they're just playing out, propaganda.
But it's worse than hype, Mike, isn't it? It seems like these things are social engineering plays intended to suck in a particular target. In the case of the Birdman, it was President Trump. As soon as he retweeted something about this, Daily Beast dives on it, says it's a conspiracy theory. I'm concerned about some of the things that have come forward might have the same intention.
Well, they go viral, and then there's no motivation. Okay, there's no motivation to come up with the intel, because if there was any, the things already went viral. So the point of the entire operation has been achieved. So why would you spoil it by giving him any details? And you look at some of these things, and you have to scratch your head. At least I do. I don't think most people do. They see everybody. It's like a hive mind. When we're talking to guys from Google and YouTube, the programmers, they talk about a hive mind, the Google hive mind, and all these things. And it really is. It's like this mob of people that get this wave going, and everybody's pushing this wave. And I'm kind of like, I'm kind of on the surfboard back behind the wave saying, man, that's going to be a really bad wipeout. I'm going to stay back.
But even now, in the comments, people are saying, oh, Kraken is an online fraud detection. So I've seen all that, but it's still, I don't know. I'm not trying to put any pressure on Sidney Powell or Rudy Giuliani to release anything prior to them being ready to do it. I must acknowledge, though, Mike, today, I definitely have the feeling of the momentum is way favoring Joe Biden, and it's becoming increasingly difficult politically, legally, and as far as the momentum goes and the mainstream media goes, it's getting harder every day for Trump to pull this out. Well,
people are smartening up on this side of the aisle, so to speak. The conservatives are saying, wait a second, what's going on here? We're supposed to get all this information, and this other stuff was supposed to come out. These lawsuits we've been contributing to were supposed to be successful, and that's not happening. Believe me, we looked at the lawsuits, and my God, I don't know what's going on there. So, and that's unfortunate in itself. See, the strange thing is, and we didn't really get into this last week because it was new. We did kind of touch on this, and I got some responses from people saying, "Hey, man, what's your story? Why are you so mad about the Kraken and stuff?" I said, "I just."
You got in a fight with a Kraken in 1996, and you're still not over it.
It's not my first go around with the Kraken, right? Yeah. But I've been on different pirate ships and I've seen a lot of Krakens, but that's actually seeing something. Like, so all I said last week on the show, after we left the YouTube portion and we went on to the subscriber only portion, right? I said to you, just put it out. Just stop it. If you have something, please put it out. This is not like a way you handle your business. Like, it's coming, it's coming, it's coming, it's coming. And I
have the clip, Mike. Do you want to hear the clip?
Warner Wolf. Remember Warner Wolf?
No.
It's like WOR in New York, whatever. Let's go to the video clip. You always used to say, I always say that.
Yeah, let's do it. We've got it right here. We can listen to this clip. So this is from the sponsor exclusive show. People are going to catch tonight's edition in just under 25 minutes. Let's listen to it.
Look, at this stage, if you got something, put it out. Don't play games with people. People have been fucked with, okay? And they've given the president and his people so much leeway, and they've put so much trust into these people. And this is just me saying this, and you're going to drag them along for a couple more days about some fucking mystery. Put it out or shut the fuck up.
But they're going through a process. But Mike, isn't it also true, though, that the counterpoint to that point is that they are going through a legal process and they don't want to reveal things prior to... No, it's not that.
No, I don't see it that way at all. Because we watch these lawsuits every day. We watch the federal courts. We're watching Pacer. We're watching everything. To the minute, things are uploaded, okay? Mm-hmm. We've been watching it for a week now. Anytime a brief is filed or motion is filed, whatever, by either side, we're on it. And there's no mention. See, this is what people don't understand. It's the damnedest thing because it's really hard to fathom. There's no mention of this widespread fraud that we see being talked about on TV, being talked about on the internet, these press conferences. The lawsuits have none of that, not a smidgen of any of that. So you're out front saying all this other stuff, but what's going on in the courts? And they're getting their asses whooped in the courts, by the way. I think they're like 1 in 31 on decisions, right? 1 win, 31 losses, 32 losses on decisions, because all this stuff that they supposedly have evidence for, it's not in the cases. Now, people say, well, it's going to be in the cases. It's going to come in the case, it's going to come for the big reveal when it goes to the Supreme Court. It doesn't work that way in court, right? You have to introduce anything you have. And they've said they have it already. So this is a potentially disastrous mistake to say publicly you have evidence, but you don't reveal it in the court and then expect to get it up on appeal in front of the Supreme Court. And then you release this evidence. It doesn't work that way. If you have the evidence, it has to be released during lower court proceedings. It's very basic, right? There's no big reveal. It's not like television you see on TV where they bring in the witness at the last minute. And, we didn't know this person. And they come and
you actually can't even do that. It defies discovery rules. But
yeah.
So, these are all capable attorneys. They've been DOJ prosecutors and U.S. attorneys and the mayor. How could they be making such a simple mistake? They must know what they're doing, and they wouldn't go out there and say this if they didn't. Why would all these people risk their reputations if they knew they had nothing? There's no bluff left.
I don't know. That's the big question. But everything that they're saying, it's not supported. You would think that, hey, if you had that evidence, I would want to see it too. Oh, cool. If there's all this fraud, and I don't think there's any question that there's been fraud. But my thing is like, why aren't they filing the stuff? Where's the proof that they have all this proof?
But doesn't there have to be a reason, something expert, lawyerly, that they know that you and I aren't thinking of?
But it has to be in the lawsuits, though. That's the only way you're going to overturn this thing. And the evidence would have to be introduced. In other words, I don't know what's happening here, but they haven't produced that evidence, and it's a little bit more than troublesome. And I'm not the only guy saying this, right? I'm talking to people. I'm talking to appellate level lawyers in the Third Circuit that I know in Philly, and other people, and they're saying, "Nah, this is weird." And not only that, they've made a string of rookie errors, and this is according to experts, not me, of rookie errors at the appellate level, filing different things, missing deadlines, deadlines that they have. Deadlines they asked for themselves. This isn't like the court imposed a deadline. They said we're going to file by this time. They miss it by 20 minutes, 40 minutes. That's not a big thing, right? But when you add all these things together, they're asking for a temporary restraining order. The appellate court comes back and says that's not even in federal rules. You have to ask for something different, and we can't give you the leeway. Hey, you've been to federal court, man. You know better than anybody.
Yeah.
A pro se litigant like yourself is going to have a little bit more leeway, but when these guys lawyers come in and they file under the wrong rule, there's no you're not going to get we can't cut you a break.
That can end it right there. You get sanctioned and thrown out.
Right. Opposing counsel's like, whoa. You asked for a temporary restraining order. You can't do that. You have to ask for an injunction. There's no such thing as a temporary restraining order. And that's a big deal. That's a really big deal. And that's
Is it because they're not practicing in their regular jurisdictions, the local rules, and Rudy maybe hasn't. It's crazy either way. They should just get some local counsel to help them.
Well, they never did that. They never brought somebody in. I talked to some appellate attorneys in Philly saying they need somebody who's versed at the appeals level, at the appeals court level, because it's a different game. Things are ramped up when you get in front of the Third Circuit. You have to have all your ducks in a row, and they haven't done that. And so they're making these mistakes, and people are just shaking their heads. If you Mark Elias over Perkins Coie, who's running the whole left, he's running the operation for all the lawsuits from the left. He's sitting there literally poking fun at the whole thing, shaking his head like, this is unbelievable.
But isn't that what that guy's going to do no matter what they say? He is a Clinton scumbag through and through.
Yes, but here's the deal. It's being echoed by regular Joes in a lot of the regular Joes in the legal community saying, why would you file under incorrect federal rules and things like that? All this stuff is technical to the regular person, right? But it all comes down to these lawsuits, and this has been going on for a while. This isn't something new this week. From the outset, these lawsuits were problematic because they promised that there was going to be a big reveal or a lot of fraud, and they were working on it. And then what they did, especially in Pennsylvania, the key state, literally the keystone state of this whole thing, they filed that, and then they withdrew those allegations and updated the suit. They removed the fraud allegations, the election fraud allegations, which is what they're selling on TV and what they're selling all over the place, right? Doesn't make any sense. And then when Rudy Giuliani's been asked flat out in court by the judge, are you saying there was widespread fraud? He would say, no, we're not saying that at this point. And
why is he not saying that?
Exactly. So the devil really is in the details here. People get all whipped up and they say, oh, well, you're being this and you're being that. And we're just reading the lawsuits, and we're reading what's going on from different people, but mostly the lawsuits and the testimony from both sides. It's very interesting for me from a legal perspective, because I've been covering lawsuits for a long time. I don't know, years, decades, multiple decades. So they seem somewhat unprepared, I would say, to say the least, and disheveled. And they've made a lot in Pennsylvania. They made a lot of errors. Now they're trying to go back and have it. They're trying to get back to district court, trying to get. I don't know what's going on, to correct a lot of things. But the other striking thing is this, and I don't know why this is. Again, we're just out here. I'm just a spectator, right? A guy who's been around, who watches stuff, watches these things, not to point these things out. There's nobody on. They'll say, "Oh, this guy's on the campaign. This gal's on the campaign, on the legal team." but they don't have an expertise in election fraud. They don't have an expertise, right? They didn't bring in an expert to handle that, and they don't right now have somebody at the appellate level who knows their way around, and they're making these errors. And what that does is you can probably attest to, what that does is when these little things compile, it gives a real bad taste
to the
for the
judge.
judge. The judge gets, oh, what is going on here? Why is this? Why are they doing it? Why is this in my courtroom? And then, you have to appease these judges. They get a little finicky. They get a little finicky, and they can, because they really roll the roost.
Yep.
We've seen that. Everybody's seen that with this Judge Sullivan case with General Flynn. The judges don't like it when you come in the courtroom and try to make a spectacle of it. I mean, Giuliani made some references to My Cousin Vinny, and it really has a lot of funny parallels about that judge. But judges are like that. They're like, what is this? Why would you bring this to my court? Especially in front of an appeals court. They're not used to seeing these kind of errors. And because opposing counsel is so vehement, let's say Pennsylvania, okay, opposing counsel is not going to want to cut anybody any breaks. They want these things tossed out of the courtroom. And that's where we're at. I would characterize it, and I characterized it last week in a little memo I wrote before we went on last week, you and I, and we talked about it last week, obviously. I would characterize it as a mess, a really and I thought maybe in the last 7 days since then, thinking at that time, maybe they're going to update it with some of this evidence and things like that. But as time has gone on, that hasn't happened. And again, we're getting back to what I said. If you got something, put it out there. And otherwise,
people are telling us in the comments, Mike, that Sidney Powell was just on Lou Dobbs, and she says she will release something significant tomorrow.
That doesn't mean anything to me. First of all, what does it have to do with Pennsylvania? You got to win Pennsylvania, right? I think you got to win Pennsylvania. Now, people say there's all the different kind of pathways, all right? But if you're just going to put it out in one state, she's going to file a suit in Georgia, right? What about all the other suits? All the other states? You have to. He has a legal team who, by the way, is raking in from what I've heard, a considerable amount of money from contributions. Okay, so this whole thing is being right. The whole thing is being funded privately, and I think they're doing very well. So they have the money to spend on attorneys. But if you just sue in Georgia, what's that going to do? Let's say you overturn Georgia. I mean, you need multiple states, and the FaceTime and everything on TV, that doesn't do anything for me. I'll go back to what I said last week. And don't forget, I said those comments, and I talked about, as that clip plays on, I thought it was irresponsible to whip up the crowd unless you actually had the goods, right? And I still feel that way. I feel very strongly that way because we haven't seen anything. And so talk is cheap at this point. There's a presidency on the line. There's an election on the line. And
Chet tells us that momentum is important. And I agree with that. The momentum is going the wrong direction. Mike, what's up with this? We heard earlier today that Pennsylvania is certified.
The results today. Yeah.
So how could they do that, though, if it's still contested? I thought that there's a legal process if one of the people contests it.
They can do anything they want. These guys vote on anything they want. Detroit did the same thing, right? So once that happens, it's going to take a lot more momentum to try to reverse it. They're going to they have to come into court with smoking guns and everything. But every time they file new papers, it's just not there. I'm not making this up. We have people literally watching the federal courts for every new filing, thinking, oh, well, are they going to drop a bomb? There are absolutely no bombs. And even the things that they are alleging, let's say they're like, I think there was 85,000 vote difference in PA or something like that. Even some of the things that the campaign has alleged in court filings, it would only, if decisions went their way, it would only flip maybe 1,500, 2,000 votes, right? You're still talking about a massive gap. Now, if they had, this is like the head scratcher for me, right? If they have this information, it needs to get. It's actually probably past due, right? When you have these states certifying the results, right? It should have been in the filings to try to stymie that if they had anything. But
didn't they? Isn't that what the injunction was about, to stop the certification?
yeah, but you can file you can file paperwork or whatever to stop a certification. But as you know, you can say whatever you want in court filings. But if it gets in front of the judge
and they don't
and there's no
endorse
no
it, you're
proof,
in trouble. Yeah,
there has to be proof, and then they get really upset, and then they, I read the opinion in Pennsylvania, and it was vicious. It was vicious. And judges usually don't go out of their way to drop a hammer like that. And now they want to go back in front of that judge. I have to be honest with you, it's a mess. So then you have to start asking yourself why they would do this. Why is it so feckless? Is it, I don't know, is it done on purpose for some reason? Is something else going on? I don't know. These are questions that are above a lot of our pay grades, but we are able to point out certain things, and we'll talk about that later tonight as we move on to the other stuff. But this has been a pretty good primer, and we've said from day one to our folks on our platforms, don't get your hopes up. This is going back 10 days now.
I ignored it when you said that. My hopes have been up the whole time.
Well,
but the judge wrote that the Trump campaign used strained legal arguments without merit and speculative accusations in its effort to throw out millions of votes. That is not good. This cannot justify the disenfranchisement of a single voter, let alone votes of its sixth most populated state. But what about all this evidence that we've seen? I mean, there has been a lot of evidence that Dominion voting has got a lot of exploits. We've seen people talking about exploiting it, blocking the Republican vote observers and everything. I mean, this stuff seems like they have tons of evidence that I don't understand why they're getting lost in the weeds.
Exactly. If the rhetoric on TV and all the allegations on TV and on the internet, that's why you said when she was on Dobbs, at this point, you're running a public relations campaign because your legal filings don't match your rhetoric. So where is it? It's frustrating. It's confusing to a lot of people. And then guys like you and I, or guys like me, we just end up getting attacked because we're being too negative. No, I'm telling you the truth. It's not in the legal filing. But Rudy goes in front of the judge and says all this stuff. Then the next time they file papers, they recant all the fraud allegations. It's like, wait a second. It's like sleight of hand. One hand's doing this and one hand's doing that. And it really makes you start to wonder what the heck is going on and why they would do this. Is it a money thing? Is it just about raising money? Okay.
How could that possibly be?
Well, no. The fact that we're in this position to ask these questions is problematic, right? If you have the evidence, it's very basic. You know this, and people know this. If you have the evidence, you have to put it in your legal filings in the case. A lawyer can stand up there and say anything they want. That doesn't even mean it's going to change a damn thing unless there's some information or documentation or fact witnesses who come forward whose information is so compelling that but we're not even at that stage. Like usually you would give information or a bunch of stuff that you would say, yeah, this proves it. And then the other side would have an opportunity to cross-examine that information or vet that information. It hasn't even gotten to that point. This is like a slam dunk for these other people. And
Mike, we're almost out of time here on YouTube, and we're about to transition over to the sponsor-exclusive segment on subscribestar.com and patreon.com/truepundit. Also on subscribestar.com and patreon.com/crowdsourcethetruth. I just want to hit you with a couple of comments that we're getting here. Robert Stahl, who's a regular viewer, is saying, what happened to the watermarks? It's an excellent question. I don't know if he's being sarcastic or serious, but that whole watermark story that came out right away, that was a Falcon story that never seemed true to me. And I've been very concerned about Scorecard and Hammer and these other. It's like we got this signal to noise ratio problem where there's a lot of noise being injected into the signals. So we'll get into some details about what you think about that when we make the transition. But before we go, I want to remind people to tune into the Thomas Paine podcast. You got new episodes every day, and people who sponsor Mike on Patreon or Subscribestar are going to get commercial-free access to the video version of the daily Paine in the morning, and it's a great way to stay on top of your news there. People can also check out truepundit.com, and Mike is on Twitter, of course, at Thomas1774 Paine. And Mike, we're going to see everybody on the other side here on Patreon and Subscribestar. Thanks for watching, everybody.